Hi, this is Sensei James Leonelli from Sensei's Weekly Mindset, and I'm here to talk to you about betonline.net. Betonline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball, soccer, and esports. Don't forget my personal favorite, MMA. We've got it all on betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, we can help you find those on BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. And don't forget BetOnline for NHL, boxing, golf, and like I said, my personal favorite, the sport of MMA. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. Life isn't always easy, and you don't have to face it alone. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you have access to a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of needs. To get started, you simply answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's most convenient for you. The best part is, if your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price, all from the comfort at home. To start your journey and to get 10% off of your first month, go to betterhelp.com/sensei. That's betterhelp.com/sensei. BetterHelp, you deserve to be happy. Hi guys, Sensei James Leonelli here to talk to you about another one of our sponsors, LMNT. An electrolyte drink mix. Each one of these little packets gives you exactly what you need to keep you as hydrated as all us athletes like to be. If you're like me, you work out a lot, and when you work out a lot, you also sweat a lot. Now, when we sweat, we don't lose just water, of course. We also sweat out salt. We sweat out electrolytes. So each one of these packets contains 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, giving you everything that you need in order to maintain optimal hydration and nothing that you don't. So to go online, place an order for your sample pack, and to get yourself a bonus free sample pack, you're going to go to this website right here, elementallabs.refr.cc/James Leonelli. You're going to see this down in the video below, but I'll say it one more time for you. elementallabs.refr.cc/James Leonelli. Again, it's a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing that you don't. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Sensei's Weekly Mindset. I'm Sensei James Leonelli, owner and head instructor of Tiger Schulman's here in Smithtown. Once again, I am back in my home recording space, ready to give you guys this week's food for thought. I'm wearing, again, this year's school apparel, the sweatshirt, once again, because it's super comfy. But again, you can find everything from Tiger's different collections at tigear.com, tigear.com. So I come today to you with a bit of a self-serving episode. I'll be the first one to admit, when all is said and done, you'll see exactly how self-serving this episode is, but nonetheless, this idea that I want to talk about today, it comes from a short story that I read in probably middle school, and it was an interesting concept. The idea was there was this time travel company, and this time travel company had figured out this way where they could make it so you could go back and hunt dinosaurs. So you would travel back in time, and they had found they had gone back and saw a dinosaur that was going to die of natural causes anyway, and you would meet it right when it was about to die, and you would hunt it and kill it there. And then from there, you would remove any evidence of the fact that you'd been there, and you'd move it, on a path that didn't touch anything, that was removed after you were there. So there was no impact to history whatsoever by you killing that particular dinosaur. And they warned you that if you stepped off of the path at all, and they didn't know what would happen if you crumpled a flower, if you stepped on an ant, if you left a fragment of a bullet behind, whatever. They didn't know how that would impact history, but they knew that any little change would impact history in some way. And you didn't know how big that history was going to change based on even the littlest of changes. And they cautioned the time travelers, about this before they went on their hunt. And the idea was, of course, that they send this traveler back, like right as they're going back. There had been a presidential election. It went a certain way. The United States was in a certain place, and it was all talked about during the story. And then the hunt happens, and I forget the reason why, but the hunter gets spooked by something, falls off the path, and runs his way back to the time travel machine. And as he does, he checks his muddy boot, and in his muddy boot, he finds the body of a butterfly. There's a dead butterfly that he stepped on. And he gets back to modern time with his partner that went with him. And the world is completely different. The United States is completely different. And the presidential election that had just happened went completely the other way. And people were really happy about it too. The person was on it was like a bad person that was on there, umpteenth term of president or whatever. And it's like, oh my gosh, all that can happen based on simply, killing one butterfly. And this movie, this story was called The Sound of Thunder. I'll never forget it. Actually, it was a really cool, impactful idea. And it was later adapted, whether they admit it or not. The people who made the Ashton Kutcher movies, The Butterfly Effect, and the sequels that came after, they stole the idea, or at least they adapted the idea from the short story. And again, the idea that you go back and you change one thing, you have no idea how the world's going to be different based on what you change. The flapping of a butterfly's wings, can start a wind that can move mountains. It was the basic premise of the idea. And that's the idea that I wanted to get at today, the kind of the butterfly effect, as they call it. And the idea that you don't know how simple how a simple little task, a simple little thing, a simple little moment that you do today will impact forever. Right? And if you guys are a long-term enough listener that you went back and you listened to my episode about my journey in martial arts and how I started, you know that my journey started in a very kind of random way. Like I probably would have found my way to martial arts by hook or by crook because I was kind of determined. My parents, not that they were against it, but they didn't the places that were close to me when I was a kid, they didn't particularly love, and they had good reasons not to. But again, probably would have found my way there some way or another. But I'm sure my life would be very different if I hadn't started the way that I did it. And how did I start? Just as a reminder, it was back back many years ago, before email and Google Docs were a thing. You would make your Christmas list as a kid, and that Christmas list would get distributed to all the aunts and uncles on both sides of the family. And invariably, one aunt from one side of the family would buy you the same board game as one uncle from the other side of the family. And you wound up like, oh no, I got two of these things. And you had to exchange one of them for whatever. So I happened to be doing that after Christmas of 1996. And in the Toys R Us that I was in, there was a big old ballot box for Tiger Schulman's, and you could win a mountain bike, a Sega Saturn, or a year of martial arts instruction. I was like, ooh. So while my mom wasn't looking, which I shouldn't have done, kids don't do this, I filled out the ballot and I dropped the ballot in the box. And like a week or so later, I got a call. I was a finalist. I won a free class, which everybody put a ballot in the box, won a free class. But won the free class, took the free class. At the time, they were running a special for like, $50 for a month. So I did that. I did a $50 1 month trial, and I was very excited about it. I paid for it with my own Christmas money, and basically, like for the entire month, just pleaded with my parents, "Please sign me up, please sign me up, please sign me up." And my dad was he was strict in all the right ways, and he was a disciplined person. And to say that he was cheap would be the wrong phrase, but if he was going to part with his money, it better be for all the right reasons. He wasn't just buying something just because you kind of wanted it. Like there had to be a good old reason that you were doing it. And on top of that, if he was spending his money on something that was gonna be a course of time, even something as simple as Town Little League, whatever nominal amount that cost when I was a kid, I was going to every practice, I was going to every game unless I was sick or if we were on vacation. That was it. So there was no I don't feel like it. Like that didn't exist in our house. But nonetheless, so to get my dad to part with the money for a year of martial arts training was not the easiest thing for sure, because it was of all the activities I had been into that point, it was going to be the longest term commitment that I had ever made. But nonetheless, made the commitment, and obviously the rest, as they say, it's history. I won the Sega Saturn too, in case you were wondering. But nonetheless, that was the whole idea. That one little ballot box, that one little slip of paper that I filled out with my bad penmanship as an 8th grader that I threw into that box, that changed my whole life. And how different would my life be if I had never put that ballot in that ballot box? So tell you again a bit of a self-serving story today along that same line to kind of motivate you, because you never know how big of a difference the actions that you take today will have tomorrow. If maybe I finally act on that trial class of martial arts that I've been meaning to do forever, and you never know what that one class can do for you. You never know. Like I have students who've been in my school for years, and they're like, it's funny. One student comes to mind as I'm thinking about this, because the parents have said this to me many times, and the young lady's been training with me for a good number of years now. She's a teenager now, and she's done a whole bunch of tournaments, wins almost every time. She's very good at martial arts, and nonetheless, they came to me because I had one of their friends called up to get information. They spoke with me. They had a person had a very pleasant experience doing the lesson with doing the phone call with me. And they're like, wow, this place sounds wonderful. We're going to tell our friends about it. So they told their friend about it. And P.S., that first person who first made the phone call, they didn't enroll in my school. The second person, they came in, and I remember at the end of the trial class, the father being so blown away, and a big, imposing guy, very nice, salt of the earth kind of person, but like physically intimidated, big dude. And he said to me as he shook my hand at the end of class, he goes, "I can't wait to see what you can do with my daughter in a year." And that was many years ago. And what are the odds that one phone call and that one conversation would have changed the course of that girl's life completely? So I had a similar experience, and this experience is at this point coming up. I'm probably 15 years old, maybe a little more. Yeah, I'm gonna imagine about 15. Doing the math real quick, about 14 years old. So about 14 years ago, I had this young man in my school, and he had trained with me in my Sensei school for years. He was, I loved him dearly, great kid, quiet kid, very quiet. And it's funny, he didn't say very much to me at all. I can't remember much he said to me in class, because he started training when he was about 6 years old. And he trained all the way up to a red belt in Tiger Schulman's, which is 2 belts before black. And or 2 color belts, I should say. So it's the color before brown belt, if you will. Nonetheless, Dylan trains all the way to there. And, he'd been a part of the school for a long, long time, but he was one of those kids who was involved in a lot of athletics. His older brother was very athletic. So therefore, if Alex did a sport, Dylan probably did it too. And Dylan wasn't as good of an athlete as his brother. Especially in that kind of stuff, because the baseball, the football, the soccer, they didn't interest Dylan really that much. But it was just one of those things where, as if they were a family they did these things, so they did these things. He would ask to do it like his brother, but he never cared as much as his brother. He was never as enthusiastic about it as his brother. And it was his brother that really led the charge in that regard. But nonetheless, so Dylan, though he trained from the time he was 6 till he was about 13 or so, you know, again, good number of years. At that time, that was about average to get somebody to black belt, but Dylan didn't get there in that time because he would take breaks for sports here and there throughout his training. And that kind of continued when he first came to my school. And it's funny. I've had conversations with his mother where she would tell me like, oh, it's very hard for me to get him here. He's not that, he's not like beating down the door to come here. I'm like, well, you don't get him here that much. How can the fire really stay going? And she's like, yeah, he's got the stars in his eyes about MMA and this, and he wants to go to an MMA school. I'm like, as opposed to the MMA school that you're paying for but not taking him to right now. Nonetheless, she eventually, there started to be this pattern, and Dylan would come in on Saturdays. And when he came in on Saturdays, Dylan would come in, take his couple of classes, and then because of the fact that Dylan's mom was running around with Alex, getting him from this sport to that sport to that sport, and the fact that his mother has a quality that most people will call lateness, that seems to go right in the DNA. Dylan would wind up spending a couple of hours at my school afterwards. So he'd get dropped off on Saturday, he'd take his couple of classes, and he would just be there in the lobby for the next, hour or two. And this happened 2 or 3 or 4 Saturdays in a row. And, some Saturdays he was there for 15 minutes. Some Saturdays he was there for 2 hours. Like there was no real, determining factor as to how it was going to be. And, one day he's sitting there, and I could see he's watching the kids' class. And he'd come up in the kids' class. So he's watching the kids' class afterwards. He's like watching. I was like, Dylan, what are you doing? He goes, I don't know. And I said, where's mom? Oh, with Alex at a game. What time is the game? Oh, it started, 10 minutes after my class ended. So I knew Dylan was there for a while. So I'm like, why don't you come on the mat and help me out? And he goes, but I'm still wearing my shirt from class. It's all sweaty. Blah, blah, blah. So I forget who was even working for me at the time. And I called out to him. I was like, hey, get Dylan a shirt out of the closet. And I gave Dylan a shirt. Dylan went in the locker room, changed his shirt. And that became our Saturday tradition, that Dylan would come in, take his classes, and then he would hang out and he would help me out in class. And it was funny because, like I said, Dylan didn't really speak to me very much, like not in like a snotty way or an inconfident way. It's funny when I remind him of this now, he always reminds me that I didn't have much to say, but I still remember the first words Dylan ever said to me. 15 years old, 6'1", taller than me. I'm like, and he comes to me one Saturday morning and he goes, I can't see. And I'm like, you couldn't see the demonstration? He goes, no, I can't see right now. I said, when's the last time you ate something? He goes, yesterday about 4 o'clock. It was 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, by the way. So, oh my God, sit down right now. We get him water and we get whatever protein bars we had in the school. Just like, eat something, kid, you're gonna pass out. Nonetheless, so this quiet kid who didn't have much to say starts helping out around my school. And he starts helping out a little more. And before too long, what happens is Dylan goes from not really being there at all to now he's in on Saturdays and he's in for the rest of the day on Saturdays. And then he starts coming on Tuesdays too. And he's coming in for the rest of the day on Tuesdays. And that morphs to Dylan basically being in the school almost every day. And he's getting so involved in helping out in the classes. And he's getting so involved. He's like a fixture in the school. Like he started to get Christmas gifts from people before he ever even like worked for me or anything, because he was so involved in the school. And like he took such an interest in the kids and really took them under his wing and this and that. And there was a day I'll never forget. He would take over parts of the class from me. Not that I would leave him unattended on the mat because he was still only a teenager, but he'd teach the warm up or the shadow kickboxing portion of the class, and I would just stand back. Maybe I'd float around the room or whatever, but he would do it all. He would give the examples. He would teach completely. He was in the driver's seat. And at a certain point, I went to the edge of the mat where the front desk was, and one of the dads is standing there. It was one of the dads who trained, and he's gone on to be a black belt and then an instructor and all of that. And I remember him looking at me. He goes, Sensei, you did it again. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you took that kid who's however long ago, didn't talk at all, and now he's in front of the room, and they've got all eyes for him, and he's the star of the show. And I'm watching. I hadn't taken as much notice of it as I probably should have at that point, of how much everybody loved him. And in that moment, I kind of turned my body to look, and I see all the kids are engaged in him, of course, and it was a big class, and all the parents are eyes right on him. Not a parent looking down at their cell phone, nothing. And it was a really powerful day. I remember it very clearly, very vividly. And Dylan took that and he really kind of ran with it. And a short while after, I went and I promoted him from there, brown belt, high brown belt, all that jazz, until eventually black belt test came. And Dylan went and took our old black belt test that used to be done at Tiger Shulman's headquarters, and he passed it with flying colors. And I honestly forget the lie that I told him about why I didn't have the results that day when I secretly had his black belt. Oh yeah, they didn't get the results done. I forget what lie I told. It was something to the effect of like, oh, they were going from Z to A, and that's why your friend who was at the Syosset school, why he got his results already. Yeah, I didn't get the results yet. And I forget again, there was something that we told him that we had told everybody that we're raffling off something or whatever. I don't remember what it was. And that's why everybody was going to come in on Saturday morning. And oh yeah, while you're here, I might as well promote your brother here. And then I took his belt out from like some hidden place, and I was like, Dylan got his black belt. But really, everybody was there to see him. And by this point, I was taking Dylan to headquarters, and he was very well known at headquarters. And it's funny. I remember a compliment I got from one of the senseis one time, where he sparred me and he sparred Dylan, and at the time Alex was working for me as well, Dylan's older brother. So he sparred Alex, and they sparred me third. So he sparred, whichever one of them first, whichever one of them second. They sparred me third, and he came to me and he goes, "I've sparred you 3 times today." Like my 3 boys, my other 2 boys are very much in my image in the way that they were sparring. But nonetheless, Dylan took that black belt, and he went on to become a Joshu, and he became an instructor in our school, and then had an opportunity to become one of the main instructors in the Syosset school. And he was there for a very long time, a good couple of years, and did really, really well there. Did beautiful things to their kids program. Really, I mean, not that he wasn't well liked by the adults as well, but I think the kids program is where he was most well liked. I think he really made a huge impact in the kids program there, because he taught a lot of the kids classes, and he really just expanded that program tremendously because of what a great instructor he is. And like, I'll never forget one of the days that I was there, spent some time there during one of the days, and I went downstairs while he was getting ready to teach class, and he's introducing me to one of his little kids. And honestly, I don't remember the young man's name. I'm sorry, young man, if you remember the story and I don't remember your name, please don't take offense. But nonetheless, Dylan's introducing me to this little man. And he goes, "This is my sensei. He started teaching me when I was your size." And the kid looked at him and then looked at me. And I'll never forget the look on that kid's face. And I'll never forget the way Dylan spoke about me. It was a beautiful moment. It was one of those moments where you realize how much of an impact you've actually had. Whereas to me, I'm just doing what I do every day. Like, I'm just trying to make him a better martial artist and a better person. And obviously that's what I try to do that for all my students. So I didn't think I had done anything for him so above and beyond. And obviously they do the work. I'm just kind of the guide or their mentor or the whatever. But nonetheless, so Dylan, like I said, was there for quite a while. Did really, really well there. And became very popular there and at our headquarters. And there was a whole bunch of people that surrounded themselves with him, black belts from that school that he still has a relationship with to this day. When at family parties of his or whatever, the DJ is the same DJ who's a black belt out of the Syosset school. He's got all these friends and stuff from his time there and his tenure there, and all the helpers from the local schools to Syosset loved him. Helpers from Rego Park, from Raphael Center, helpers from the Seaford School, from all around. They all, because a lot of them are very much his age. And while he was there in Syosset, one of the helpers from the Rockville Center School, a friend of somebody's friend, a young woman by the name of Samantha. She and Dylan got close, and then they started dating, and they eventually got married about a year ago, actually. And let's see, today, as you're listening to this, it's March 12th. So 2 days ago, they welcomed their son to the world. Little Ronan was born at 10:30 in the morning, which in many ways makes me feel very old, because the little boy that I taught for all these years has a little boy now, which blows my mind. It's absolutely mind-boggling. And I couldn't be more proud of the man that he's become. At the moment, he's a state trooper. He's still involved in Tiger Schulman's. He still does some training, some teaching. Still always trying to better himself and be a better person, better man. They own a home together. Him and Samantha, they have a wonderful relationship together. Now they have this wonderful little boy together. And it all started because of that t-shirt that day. And it's funny because he says that to me every now and again. When I wrote out the card for their wedding and for their engagement party, I always go for harken back to that little 6-year-old boy who entered my mat in Islandia all those years ago. And he goes, "I wouldn't be where I am today if you didn't hand me that shirt when I was 15 years old." Which is funny because to me, it's an innocuous thing. It was a moment that as fleeting as any other. It's not a moment that I'm like, oh, this is going to change this kid's whole life. No, I'm like, if this poor kid is bored sitting here all the time and I see the way he's looking at the kids' classes and he's good at martial arts, let's get him involved doing something, because this is before the days of smartphones. He couldn't be sitting there playing whatever. And that little moment changed the trajectory of his life. And it kind of said it, just like that ballot changed the trajectory of my life. And there's so many moments that I'm sure you can think about in your life that you can carve back to one moment, to one choice. And that one moment and that one choice changed your entire life. Right? And that's the thing. You never know what those moments are going to be. You never know. It's funny. Oftentimes the things you think are going to be the moments that are going to change your life, they don't change your life at all. They're fleeting. They're passing. Right? But it just shows you the impact of what one change you make today, what one choice you make today could possibly have in the future. Now, is every choice going to change your entire life? Of course not. But if you don't change something, who knows? Who knows what the opportunity cost is? So what I want you to think about this week as you hear about this beautiful story and you hear about my young man who's become a good man, I want you to think about, that one choice that you've been humming and hawing about making, that thing you've been hesitating to act upon. Take it. Act upon it. Because who knows what the wind from that butterfly's wing can move, what mountains that wind can move. So that's all I have for you guys this week. If you guys are friends with Dylan, hopefully you guys will all get a picture of baby Ronan soon, because he's cute, very cute. But nonetheless, that's all I have for you guys this week. As always, you can reach me via email, senseilionelli@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter and Instagram @sensei_Leonelli. On Facebook, I'm Sensei James Leonelli. You can find my school online. We're at tsmasmithtown.com. Facebook is facebook.com/Tiger Schulman Smithtown. We are on Twitter and Instagram @TSMA_Smithtown. You can find the podcast on Instagram @Sensei's Weekly Mindset. You can find more about the Tiger Schulman's organization as a whole at tsk.com. You can find me and everywhere I'm on the internet, including everything to do with Tiger Schulman's, all our sponsors, everything to do with Flex Fights, all at my linktree, linktr.ee/sensei, SENSEI, Leonelli, LEONELLI. You can find it all there. Other than that, guys, make sure you're subscribed, get your new episodes every Wednesday. Make sure you guys leave a rate and a review. It just helps. Most importantly, guys, share the podcast. It's the only form of advertising that I have, so I very much appreciate it when I see you guys sharing it in your social media and such. So, with that, until next time, my friends, invest in yourselves. I'll see you guys on the mat.